Were the people coming to the home to purchase the dogs, or did you meet them elsewhere with the dogs?
They would come to the house, and they would come up to like the front of the house, you know, by the front door, and I would bring the dogs out, and they would look at them and purchase them.
Okay. And at no point, no, I'm quite sure. Well, when you're staying in a home with bodies that are decomposing, some
Yeah,
that you become immune to the
right.
smell, and so you probably didn't smell it, but they smelt it because one gentleman, I believe it was a gentleman, they said that the police questioned him later on, and he who purchased one of the dogs, and he clearly stated that he smelt a foul odor coming from the home as they was
Yeah.
purchasing a dog. Do you remember that gentleman?
I don't, but I know that there was people at trial who testified, and they said that they remembered a foul odor. It was probably from a garage that was close to the front door. There was some rugs and blankets that still had blood on it. So the smell was coming from the garage, and the minivan had blood in it. So the smell, was pretty bad. And yeah, that smell, it never leaves your nose. It stayed in my nose probably for a month, and it's the worst smell ever. It's horrible.
Yikes! Now, at any point, okay, now I'm quite sure that van, they had to destroy that van afterwards because it was a hazardous. And
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that the home, in certain cases like that, they would destroy them. In some cases, they would send in professional cleaners to disinfect that home. Is the home still standing that you know of, or is gone?
I honestly don't know. It could be there, but I don't know.
Okay. Now let's go back to the night. Okay, when you drove the bodies off and you got rid of the bodies. The did you remove these bodies out of the van, or you left the van there with the bodies and walked back? What happened?
I removed them out of the van,
Okay.
and I left them on Old Dixie Highway, the abandoned road. There was a little, patch of grass, like off to the side, and that's where they were. That's where I left them.
Okay. Now, how did the police find the bodies? Did someone tip them off that the bodies were there? Or did you tell them the bodies were there?
Well, the day that they came for the welfare check, the officer that was knocking on the door, he came into the garage because he smelled the foul odor, and after that, he called in to the police department, and they sent out helicopters, and the helicopters found them.
Okay, so the helicopters are the ones that found them. And
Yeah.
to my understanding, you were already gone away from the home. They found you at a hotel. You and your son, you were getting ready to board a Greyhound bus and get out of town.
Yeah, I was just trying to buy more time with my son. I didn't want to lose him, and I didn't know what was going to happen. Um, I knew that eventually I would have to answer for what happened. So that day when the officer came to the house, he was knocking on the door, and I saw the officer, and I woke up Tristan, and I quickly packed a bag with a few things, and we got out the house, and we left out the back door by the pool, and all the dogs came outside and followed me. The remaining, I believe it's 10 dogs, they followed me outside, and they tried going with me, but I couldn't bring them with me. They looked like they wanted to follow me, and they started to, and I had to go into the neighbor's yard to go in a different direction because the officer was outside of the house. So there was really no direction to go other than towards the end of our street, which led to a dead end in a cul-de-sac. So there was nowhere to go. It was a dead end, and the street was surrounded by water because there was canals, throughout the neighborhood, that led out to the Gulf of Mexico. And so we stood behind an empty house for probably a couple hours until it got dark. And once it got dark, that's when, well, before it got dark, I noticed that the helicopters flying in the sky, and I could tell that they were looking for something. You know, they were looking for someone or for something, and they were just flying in circles. And then it started to rain and thunder, so that's when the helicopters disappeared. So once it got dark, Tristan and I started walking around that cul-de-sac looking for. I had to look for a way out, so I found a little. I think it's called a pontoon boat.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pontoon boat, sort of like a kayak. So I found the boat, and we used it to get across the canal. And once I got across the canal, we walked a few blocks, and we sat down on a little bench next to the canal.
Okay.
So as we were sitting down, I called a taxi, and Tristan was getting tired. He was hungry and thirsty, so I knew I had to get him somewhere safe where he could lay down, sleep, get something to eat. So I called a taxi, and the guy picked us up, and he took us to Tampa. And when we got to Tampa, the bus station was already closed down for the night. So I asked the guy who was at the bus station if there was any hotels. And at this point, I knew, it was the end of the road. There was no delaying this any further, and all I wanted was just a little more time with my son before I had to answer for what happened.
Okay.
So I checked into the hotel. It was the Floridan Hotel, and I used my ID. I wasn't trying to hide who I was. If I was going to turn myself in, it was going to be on my own terms. So I did it in a safe public place, and I checked in with my own ID, and I figured that that's where they would find me. So that's where we slept for the night, and the next morning I get a call from the front desk, and they're telling me that the electricity went out and that I should come down, and they wanted to give me another room. So, I checked on Tristan to make sure he was okay before I stepped out the room, and I gave him a kiss on the head, and I stepped out the room, and when I got out the room, I seen something move down the hallway, and when I went to look, nothing was there, and I had a bad feeling that something was waiting for me at the end of the hallway. And when I got to the end of the hallway, there was another joining hallway, and as I slowly stepped towards that hallway, I could see that there was people waiting for me, and there was a bunch of guys in tactical uniform, black tactical uniform. They all had weapons, and they just stood there. No one made a move. I guess they was waiting for me to make a move, but it was just pure silence for about a minute, and then eventually, they took me down and arrested me.
Okay. Now, during the arrest, Tristan was still in the room, or he was in the hall with you?
No, he was in the room. He was sleeping.
Because so at this time, for you to leave Tristan in the room, you knew that the jig was up, and that was the police. You knew that, right?
Yeah, I had to leave him in the hallway, and I had to leave him in the room because once I stepped in the hallway, I knew someone was waiting for me. So I didn't want to bring him with me, just in case. I knew it was a setup at the front desk. The power went out. You know what I mean? Why would the power, have gone out? I knew something was going down. So, I knew that was it. It was the end of the road, and I couldn't bring him with me at that point. I couldn't bring him with me.
Okay. Now, let's go back to the home. Okay, when the police were there and the helicopter was flying around, at this time the police had made entrance to the home, and you were sitting by watching this not far away? You was just there watching everything that happened, or you were just trying to just find a way out?
At that point, I had to find a safe spot for Tristan because I didn't know if these cops were going to open fire on me, if they saw me or found me. There was 4 bodies. At that point, they knew if they would find me, that they would probably react in a hostile manner. So, I was just doing everything I can to keep Tristan safe and get him somewhere where, I could keep him safe and figure out what the next move was before I turned myself in. Because I knew at some point I had to turn myself in, but I was just trying to delay the inevitable and spend more time with him. I didn't want to lose him.
Okay. Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Noel Palmer detailed how you shot 27-year-old Megan Brown, the mother of your son, point blank range in the eye, after fatally shooting her father, 52-year-old Gregory Brown, in the back and abdominal section. Palmer also detailed the hammer blows, 9 to the head of 52-year-old Margaret Brown and 21 or more blows to the head of Megan's new boyfriend, Nicholas, who was 37. Could you comment on that? Because, they're saying here that you shot the man, which would be Gregory. You shot him in the back and the abdominal section.
Yeah.
And Greg, they're pretty much saying you bashed his head open 21 times or more. Detail that to us, sir. Because like I said, police work is all guesswork. What do we got here? Mm-hmm.
It was either an exaggeration or they just didn't know what they were doing, because they didn't mention the bullet wound to Nicholas Leonard, and I clearly shot him when he was trying to shoot me with the weapon, and I finally got it out of his hands while Greg was trying to shoot me. Also, they both were trying to shoot me. Once I got it out of his hands, there was a shot to the wall, and then I shot Nicholas in the stomach. And they never mentioned the bullet wound to his stomach. Apparently they either overlooked it or they didn't mention it for a reason, to withhold information or the truth. Basically, they were just trying to hide the truths. And the fact that they lied about how many times I hit him over the head was just, they were clearly trying to show that I'm some type of monster and, just using excessive force, which I did.
Okay.
I hit him a few times. I can't remember how many, but it wasn't 21 or more. And I didn't hit Margaret more than twice. I hit her 2 times. And after I hit her the second time, she was gone.
Okay.
She just exaggerated.
Mm-hmm. Over exaggerated. Okay, I can relate to the police over exaggerating, stuff, but I can agree with that. Okay. Now, Megan worked at the Fisherman Shack bar in Hudson. Is that correct?
Yep.